You'd think he would feel a little down, skinny or something like that, but he didn't. He stood tall and seemed sure of himself, but the most important thing was that the first thing he looked at when he walked into the courtroom was his family. As part of their plan to get this case to trial as soon as possible, the defense may be preparing to show the electronic proof or call their witnesses. Meanwhile, some news sources say Diddy has stopped eating. This could be because he doesn't like the food, but it could also be because he does. Scared that someone is after him and might put poison in his food. So far, Diddy and his lawyers have done everything they can to keep the rapper out of jail, but it hasn't worked at all. His family seems to be behind him and speaking out for him, so it looks like the way he acts in jail and court is meant to send a message. There have been some crazy events, so let's look at why Diddy thinks he could be killed in jail, what his enemy Suge Knight said about it, and why his court was so calm. Anyone who talks these days has only talked about Diddy's trial. How is the man himself? He seems to be trying to show that he's at his best, but based on what we know about him, that certainly won't last. Diddy has been found guilty in the eyes of most people, even though his lawyers are trying hard to make him look like a good person who is not guilty. Yes, Jesse, it was pretty interesting because I believe we have seen. A lot of pictures and videos of Sean Combs, better known as Diddy, can be found on Instagram and the Associated Press. Seeing him in real life after being locked up for 3 weeks was, to say the least, interesting. I mean, that by that, you would think he would feel a little beaten, thin, or something like that. That wasn't the case, though. He seemed sure of himself. He was tall. But the most important thing was that the first thing he saw when he walked into the courtroom was his family. He got really excited when he saw his family. Also, he wasn't chained up, but he was wearing a khaki jumpsuit that looked like it was made for jail when he went to court. His family then showed up, and they were very happy to see him. His family was there to back him, which made him look like a real family man. First there was Janice Combs, who sat next to Justin. Then came Chance, the twins, Quincy, and finally Christian Combs, aka Kate. So, when they saw their dad again, they all waved and smiled at him. Even as we were leaving the building today, Diddy just kissed his mom and the rest of his family. They didn't say much. I wasn't outside when they first walked into the building, so I don't know what they told the press. They had been very quiet every time they walked into the courtroom before. That's why I think it will be kind of the same. Of course, it looks like courts are determined to keep him in the Metropolitan Detention Center no matter what he does, even though he has asked for bail many times. But there's more to talk about because the latest meeting also showed that the feds were still working on getting a lot of information from the devices that were found during the raids. Because of this, many of us thought there would be fights about the bail or the bond, but they didn't happen. Sean Combs, the suspect, was told by the judge to stay inside the MDC, which is the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. As of right now, we know that the hearing will likely start on May 5th. A lot of things are on our list of things to see. This means that the data still needs to be mostly removed. Because the gadgets are a bit older, the government is also just now getting up to speed with technology. At the airport, however, they say they found 9 different devices. So far, 7 of them have been read. At Miami, 36 different devices were found and 29 were taken out. In LA, 51 devices were found and 24 were taken out. They say that the 8 terabytes of data could be ready in about 2 weeks, and they are working on making it happen. Another copy of the order is made available. Because of this, the defense didn't really have many problems in court today. During his discussions, Agnifilo also seemed pretty sure of himself. And I know that a lot of people were hoping that the bail or bond debate would happen, but it didn't. It looked like the defense was kind of, I'm lost for words here, but they were. Going along with most of the prosecution's points of view and hoping to have everything ready to go by May. Now that it's almost the end of the year, I forgot to make this big turn. However, they did say that a new charge might be filed. A former federal lawyer who was following the case said that it was very unlikely that the case would go to trial in May 2025 because there was so much evidence to look over. This is what the defense might use against the person who is being charged. Once again, our general counsel at Law and Crime, Elizabeth Vulai, is with me. Also with me is criminal defense lawyer Nima Rahmani. It's great to see you. Thanks a lot. It's great to have you both here. Dear Nima, I will begin with you. I mean, the thought of a trial date in May 2025. And Sean Combs wants to go to court as soon as possible if he thinks he's going to jail, which we've talked about before on the show. I get it. He's holding the prosecutors accountable in a way. You did hear Elizabeth, though. Terabytes of data, a production timeline, and all of this to go through. Is this trial really going to happen in May? Yes, most likely not. But Diddy's lawyers might want to slow down the government if they think they might not be ready to show the electronic evidence or call their witnesses. The defense may be trying to get this case to trial as soon as possible as part of their plan. We already know that Combs is in jail, so there's not much reason for him to wait. When Judge Supermunion asked for an estimate of time today, we knew that the defense case would be short. The government gave 3 weeks. Since the defense only had 1 week, cross-examination will be a big part of this case. That doesn't mean the government doesn't know what it's doing, though. A lot of experts have talked about how the RICO charges will help the FBI charge Diddy with many crimes at once. This means that the government will be moving a bit quickly. I know that they are still getting things like summons and responding to them. They don't even have all of their proof together yet. People who want a quick hearing will really push the government to get things done quickly because they won't have any extra time. That being said, I think the government was smart not to make this case too hard by making it much bigger than it needed to be. For example, what happened in Atlanta, which is where you all live, with the YSL RICO trial that's still going on. So you have a much easier indictment, 14 pages long, with only one clear victim, but I think it probably includes other people as well. We'll see if May stays the date. I think that if there are supersedient charges, the case will be continued because that is what would happen naturally. There has even been talk that the feds might add more defendants to the case so that Diddy has less control over it. If he's not the only defendant, then many others will be thinking about what's best for them. I'm not sure if the supersedient papers will be new charges against P. Diddy, or maybe more clear-cut victims, but I think you'll also see people who worked with Simcoe and played a big part in this huge plot that happened over the last 30 years have been caught. Since there are other defendants, Sean Combs will have less power over when and how the trial goes. But let's talk about the fact that the government doesn't play. Of course, they don't bring a case until everything is ready, like when the proof is ready. And because of that, I have to think that those things might cause delays. Also, they have a great defense team. But I also think the feds are ready to go after him because they have enough proof. They did this slowly, that's for sure. Another thing is that Diddy's lawyers are trying to make it look like any crazy parties were mutually agreed upon. But if the 120 new claims that attorney Tony Busby talked about are proven, everything would be different. Because kids under 18 can't give permission, which adds another layer of complexity. They likely want to move this case along as quickly as possible because the Speedy Trial Act says the government has to have this trial within 70 days, unless they waive time where time is excused. Let me just add to that. If a new charge is filed against him, right? We have no idea what those charges might be. We're not sure if there could be more than one suspect. We don't know if they're respectful of people who might be children. Do I really believe that this trial will not happen in May? Most likely not, especially if there is a new indictment involving minors. This is because minors present a totally different set of circumstances, as we know from his lawyers. Combs says that the sexual action did happen, but it was done with permission for sex trafficking. One of these three things must be present: force, fraud, or pressure. Of course, minors can't agree to any kind of sexual behavior, so that's a completely different defense. The defense would have to say that the behavior didn't happen at all, and that the people who are accused are lying. If we can get the kids charged in a superseding indictment, I think that will be the moment that changes everything. And we know, at least if you believe the civil lawyers, that there are 25 children victims, one of whom is only 9 years old. People haven't filed those suits yet, but Tony Busby, a lawyer from Texas, said that's what we should expect from these rules. People also think that Diddy had a hand in making the tape of an A-lister public while he was in jail. This tape is currently making the rounds in Hollywood. Some people think it could have been the rapper telling people to be quiet or he'll look bad on their records. We now have a lawyer with us. We have Ariel, she's now coming over. So what do you think this stars that we have this unknown man? Why might this matter for the case? There is a person I know, but I will not say their name out of respect. What does this mean for the case? I believe it would have a bigger effect if that person was known. I believe it would shock everyone, but not too shocking. And I think it would show how Mr. Combs usually treats other people, like Mrs. Ventura and the person in the video. After all, the FBI already says they have proof that Diddy tried to call witnesses to threaten or pressure them. This was a big reason why Diddy has been turned down for bail so many times. I believe it has more to do with him being a flight risk than with mischief. We saw proof that he had sued Diddy along with one of the members of Dirty Money, whose name is Don Richard. Then another member of that Dirty Money group came out and said, "Oh, well, I didn't see anything. This pretty much disproved her story." This is something I don't know about. After the fact, we learned that Diddy called her 54 times in a row. I think that those events make it more likely that someone will tamper with something. And I do think that some victims, like my client, are afraid to come forward. She was scared that he wouldn't be able to get bail this week. And once I told her that I would come after people, including her and some of the other people. And she felt a lot better when he didn't get bail. This is why I believe the problem is more than just hacking. there is also a flight risk. One of Diddy's victim's lawyer, Ariel Mitchell, thinks that the feds don't want him to get away with it because of how they're treating him right now. His offer of a $50 million home wasn't enough, though, because he still has to stay in jail. There are many times when, in America, someone is innocent until proven guilty. But then there are people who are guilty and people who are not guilty. We think Mr. Combs is more likely to be guilty because of how he has behaved in the past and because so many people have filed civil lawsuits against him. Also, as I already said, he is a flight risk and has the means and ability to actually leave the country so he doesn't have to face his crimes in criminal court. Taking everything into account, I think the court is being careful not to do anything that would let Mr. Combs get away with his crimes. One thing to keep in mind is that Diddy's son may also have to testify soon. There are already claims that Christian King Combs raped a woman, and Gene Deal, who used to be Diddy's protection, said that King may have been the main reason the Cassie video got out. He said he did not know what to do. He's making fun of the government. I also told you that the Southern District of New York is a tough place to do business. Okay, King Kong? Jess put another metal rod in their backs. Something was added to the news after he did that. Can you see that? It was stupid, so he said, well, we did this and that everyone went to the wrong house, we had this here. We'll show you that we're wrong. CNN, please show this. Roller to do something. Brother, don't cause trouble for the cops. Because you need to know this. They had a lot of time. They only have a short time to do it. Deal also said that the feds are tough enough to make the trial go on for as long as it needs to, even if people want it to end quickly. In the end, they will win. Hey, those people are going to want something while they wait. People like to be fixed. That needs to be fixed right away. They should. They want them to quickly find something against Diddy or show him what they have on him. Fans are going to take their time. It might take 6 months, a year or 2 years. They had 3 years to make their case. They got 3 years. They checked them out from every angle. They are likely to make sure everything is done right. At the same time, more well-known people may talk about Diddy. Jaguar Wright says Diddy also made out with Kate Jackson. Everything that was going on at the same time that she married someone as rich as Diddy was making her mad. Oh, because he has been bothering her. No, for a long time. Janet? Sure, sorry. Oh man, they're not going to talk about it. I could picture him thinking this. So now I understand what Orlando means when he uses his little cold word to talk about Janet Jackson. I get what he's saying. Janet is getting a lot of attention though. She did what she had to do to stay living. She's strong. It's just, oh, that Jackson family has a bad name. To this day, lawyers for Diddy's victims like Gloria Allred are still working for their clients' rights. It's all about how to use power wrongly. Harvey Weinstein, Bill Cosby, and R. Kelly, who was only talking to Eyewitness News, have all been named by people who have Gloria Allred at their side. Aside from Talia Graves, she now works with an unknown number of people who say Sean Diddy Combs abused them. How painful it is to be attacked. I feel bad about myself because of it. When someone is being charged with a crime, it is the government's job to create a strong case against them. It's important to agree that's a big thing to prove. Combs has now asked a federal judge to set next year's trial for April or May. Another person who could be called as a witness is her ex-girlfriend Cassandra Cassie Ventura. Even though the deal wasn't made public, this happened. It took place the day after Ventura sued Combs in November, saying he raped and abused her. Even when there is a private legal settlement, there is always a way to get around the rules. They can still go to court if someone calls them. Diddy will fight from jail for now though, even though he is said to be afraid that someone will poison him. At the same time, some news outlets say Diddy has quit eating. He might be doing this because he doesn't like the food or because he believes someone is out to get him and is poisoning his food. But is that likely or even possible? Besides that, what are the risks of MDC, especially for a well-known suspect like Diddy? So Diddy's life in the shoe, in the safe, reserved room where he's been kept, is likely to be something normal and easy. Because he's being kept in a separate area for his own safety, he probably won't even like some of the things that Gen Pop seems to like. This means that guards will be watching him more closely when he comes and goes from his cell to eat and play. Based on the fact that Diddy is a well-known prisoner, the shoe unit does its job and keeps the prisoner safe. But it also means the prisoner has to follow more rules. He might do worse things if he stays in jail for a longer time. Let's see what happens. That's all there is to it now. Type your thoughts in the box below. To get more news, click the bell icon.